All right. Hello and welcome to the Miracle Morning for Network Marketers audio series / podcast, depending on where you might be finding this information and this content at the moment. My name is Pat Petrini. I'm the co-author of the #1 best-selling book, The Miracle Morning for Network Marketers. And in creating this book, we reached out to some of the very top network marketers in the world, and we interviewed them, some of the top performers, both people that have been around the network marketing world for years and even decades, as well as people that are fairly newcomers that have just been around for the last few years, but have had extreme success in those just those last few years. And we reached out, we interviewed them. That's what this series is all about. You're going to hear interviews from a number of different people. And in these interviews, we dive into not only their tips, strategies, techniques, things that have really accelerated their business, but also, and of course this was sort of the thesis, the theme of the book is the Miracle Morning for Network Marketers. We delve into their morning routines and their daily rituals, things that they consider to be critical for success that are really important for them to do every single day. And what we found, the whole concept of the Miracle Morning is that not every successful person does all of these different things every day, but just about every successful person does some of these things every day, has some of these daily rituals, oftentimes morning rituals, and so we dive into that in this audio series. Now, if you're not familiar with the book, you can check out the book, of course, at Amazon. Just go to Amazon and search for The Miracle Morning for Network Marketers. You'll find it right there. And then, of course, you can also go to our website. You may be listening to this recording right there on our website, but if you're not, if you're finding it somewhere else, go to tmm4networkmarketers.com. That's TMM, like the Miracle Morning, FOR, networkmarketers.com. Again, my name is Pat Petrini. I hope you're going to enjoy this interview. I know you're going to enjoy this interview. You might want to have a pen and paper handy, and on with the show. Thanks a lot.
All right, well, welcome everybody. Thanks for tuning into our call here today. My name is Pat Petrini, and I am very honored to have the one and only Jordan Hubbard Monroe on the line with us. Jordan, are you there?
I am here, Pat. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much. You know, Jordan, I really appreciate you being on here with us, and just thanks so much for being part of this project here with us, the Miracle Morning for Network Marketers.
Absolutely. I'm truly honored and excited to help in any way possible and really continue this movement for the next generation, and with that transform the world. So let's get rocking.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of my favorite things about having been part of this project is I literally just get to pick my favorite people from throughout the whole industry and work together and share all of our best stuff with everybody. So it's awesome.
Hey, and if we can do the good, the bad, and the ugly, hopefully it'll translate well.
That's right, absolutely. And so just a little bit of give us a little bit of your background. I know you're up in Seattle currently, and you and I had met in Reno, which is where I'm from, and where you were living at one point. Give us a little bit of kind of your background, how you found yourself in the network marketing industry, how long you've been in the industry now, any of those details.
Yeah, sure. It's an interesting story. Back in 1981 when I was born, no, I'm just kidding. I actually more or less grew up in this industry. My parents had joined a network marketing company, over 15, 16 years ago, and I loved it. I listened to conventions, big speakers, big events. I would go with them at a very young age, and I had seen all the men at the top succeeding, and everyone in the audience, including my parents, clapping for them. And so although I believed in this industry to the extent that you help others succeed is the only way that you can win, I had never seen it happen for anyone that I knew. So I was a little reluctant to believe that this industry worked. And again, I was, 14, 15 years old, so still on mom and dad's payroll. I didn't have to make those kinds of decisions just yet. But I did get my foundation in the industry from watching them put an effort in. Fortunately, it wasn't our only means for income. My parents were very successful in their traditional business.
Yep.
But when it came time at around 21, I went to one of the national conventions, And I had a job. I was working in fashion from San Francisco to LA. I grew up in the Bay Area. And I just did not like the 9 to 5. I wasn't good at it. I didn't like asking to have a lunch break and time off to go back and visit family. I really was spoiled with understanding the lifestyle that this industry could provide, and my parents being self-employed their entire lives, the lifestyle that they created for us.
Yeah.
So I actually joined that company with my parents at, I think, 22, 23 years old, somewhere around there, and tried. I tried really hard. We were doing events. We were, plugging into the fly-ins that they had with that other company, and Pat, I got to tell you, it wasn't working. I think at the peak, my parents had, 88 people and were making $200 a month. And then a dear friend of ours came and said, hey, and he had been very successful in the other company. He was the youngest Royal Diamond, the rock star, if you will, at a very young age in that company. Yeah. And he came to my parents and said, we're going to another company. He blood, sweat, and tears went into that, and he found an opportunity with the company that we're with now. And in April of 2008, I was 26 years old and decided this was it. I was in finance now at the time because I was trying to pay the bills. Instead of just existing, I was existing with debt. And really, Univera was a bold choice that I made, contrary to what everyone in my peer group was doing. And within a year of joining that company, we went to the top. My parents went diamond. Myself, I went diamond, and I'm the youngest diamond at the company. And we broke, I think, 3 or 4 other diamonds. And my parents in 2010 were the Associates of the Year. And we're winning. So, it wasn't us that had changed. It was the team that we were a part of, the movement that we wanted to create, and the transformation of a company that, like I said earlier, it's all about changing the world. So it's pretty amazing.
So that's actually exactly what I wanted to ask you about next is like you had said, it wasn't necessarily that you had changed. You were the same person, same work ethic, probably a lot of the same contacts, things like that. But you and your family ended up kind of stepping away from that company where things just weren't working, and you found a new home, and everything changed. So what do you think is the difference there? Like what do you think are the important things to look for? Because that's one of the first decisions somebody's going to make about getting into network marketing is what company they're actually going to choose. So what do you think that somebody really needs to be looking at when they're making that decision?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will never discredit the original company where I was at because I got my feet wet. I got my foundation. Sure, yeah. I got my belief. I got, all of this. I saw an opportunity, and I believed that it was possible. However, there are definite things you want to look at and look for in a company. And, I kind of break it down into a few things. Number one, for me, is product. And is your product going to hit the timing and going to hit a trend? And more importantly, does it work? Is it proven? And are you going to be able to transform people's lives with it so you can create that residual income? So for me, it had to be an ingestible good because I want someone using this day in, day out, month after month to create that freedom that we talk about. So that was a major difference between my first company and this company. The first company was a durable good, and it just, that was a big thing. And then, of course, we talk about the timing and trend. For me, I look at if a company's gone international. That's huge for your potential growth, and especially if we're talking to a young generation, you want to be a part of that movement. Right. And the second thing with the timing is what's their track record? How long have they been around? And to that, I go to the next thing that I value is the ownership. Who's the vision behind this company? What's the modus operandi, if you will, for launching or moving a company and the ball down the field? So that was number 2 that I had to check off my list, is from the visionary leadership of the owner to the corporate team, and that leads to the next check is the team of people that you're going to be working with. Who are you linking arms with? Because, you know, you've got to look at this as a volunteer army. And you're going to be with people almost as if it's a marriage, you know, day in, day out, working together. So you want to make sure that the people you're linking arms with will go to the end with you. And that was huge for me in moving to the company that I'm with now. And I think we're on number 4, so maybe 3 or 4 in there that I check off the list is the compensation plan. It's got to be very balanced, and with the way they pay out in the beginning, the middle, and the end. And, you know, being competitive in this industry, you can work it any way you want to. But the bottom line is for every dollar that comes in, how much is being paid out. And so those are kind of the key areas that I look for in a company and that I found in the company that I joined. And really it just made it a home for a lifetime.
Yeah, yep, I love it. Now, one of the things that I love that you know, you're in this business with your family. I can relate to that because I have the fortune of being in this business with my family as well, with my parents working together with me. I know that one of the things that when I had asked you is what has been, or you know, what the biggest influence on your attitude and your mindset. You had said your parents, and you actually put in all caps warriors in life, and so I wanted to see if you could, you know, talk a little bit about that. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure and honor to boast about my mom and dad. They're incredible. They are amazing. You talk about people that, you know, didn't have maybe the most glamorous or best upbringing and worked their butts off to create a lifestyle for myself and my brother and sister that was truly extraordinary. And they weren't afraid to be real. They weren't afraid to show us struggle in business. You know, when you own your own company, there are ups and downs, and they weren't afraid to show us, you know, the good, like we said earlier, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It is life. It goes through peaks and valleys, and they have always just remained steadfast, solid supporters in our lives and motivators to be authentic, be our own individuals. They've never forced us to do anything, but absolutely were at our backs with any opportunity that we wanted to pursue. And in this industry, you know, those peaks and valleys can sometimes seem even greater. And, you know, to see them persevere, to have 2 allies that love you infinitely no matter what is going on, you can't ask for better role models than that. And, you know, to have them with me in Univera, I got to say, Pat, in the beginning, it was weird because the choice that I made to join the company that I'm with was to break free of depending on my parents, right? I was 26 and I was still struggling to survive, so I would ask them for a couple extra $100 maybe. Hey, Mom, you know, can I have 100? Don't tell Dad. Hey, Dad, can I borrow 200? Don't tell Mom. And so joining Univera was to create an extra income so I didn't have to do that. However, I had to leverage them as my teammates to create that income. So it was a very big catch-22 to understand I wasn't using them, but I was utilizing them. And it has been such a joy. My dad has been my coach. I played basketball my whole life, played Division I at the University of Portland, and my dad's been my coach my whole life. So it's just only fitting that he and my mom are, you know, my teammates in this now, my coaches, my allies, and just partners for life. We kind of got a ride or die relationship with those 2.
Yeah, I love it. They are awesome people. I've loved just a couple of times that I've gotten to sit down with your parents. That they're really awesome people.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, jumping topics just a little bit about attitude and mindset. And one of the things that you had said is, you know, attitude and perspective. It's some of the few things that we actually have control of. And so I wanted to ask you a little bit about what are some of the different things that you actually do. You actually had talked about some of the different things that you do to sort of get your attitude or your mindset sort of in the right place? What are some of those? Actually, I guess one, why do you think it's so important? And then two would be like, what are some of the things that you do if you feel like you're a little bit off and you got to readjust a little?
Yeah, absolutely. Why is it the most important? It determines your entire life. Your attitude and your perspective determine your entire day, week, month, year, decade, whatever you call it. It affects your relationships. It affects everything that makes life worthwhile. And, for me, a couple of things that I do to get first of all, I got to surround myself with good people. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever walked in a room or had someone walk in a room and you feel like they're those people that just turn the lights off. And then you have someone walk in the room and they turn the light on and you feel their energy the moment they walk in the room. That's how I've always wanted to be. And not obnoxious energy, not like, hey, look at me, but just hold a space where you are light and just living in gratitude to be able to give and share that with others. I have a saying that I've always used, it's all love and we're all one. And if I can exist in that space all the time, wow, I've mastered something. However, we're human. That's not the case. We have breakdowns. Let's go back to those peaks and valleys. We all have them. And it's really cool to watch myself from a kind of a outer perspective of when I know I'm in it, which is not a good place. When I know I'm in a funk and I can rise above and say, okay, you're in a funk. Come on, let's pull yourself out. And sometimes I just don't want to. Sometimes I actually will sit in the funk. However, I won't go out in the world and project that story to others because it affects other people's lives. It's a very powerful tool that we have, controlling our attitude, because it bleeds out into everything and everyone that we touch, see, and know. So a couple of the things that I do to get my mind right, and I love that we're talking about the Miracle Morning. My mom always taught me, and almost to an extent that I kind of am, oh man, I wish I didn't know that, but she was a woman that said, don't talk to me till 11 a.m. So in our house, the mornings we were up early. However, it was silent time, reading, meditating, for me, music is so important. Music determines everything and can uplift anything. So my mornings consist of a morning prayer of gratitude, absolutely turning on music. I listened to my sister turn me on to Kundalini Yoga, and has given me so many CDs. So every morning and throughout the day, actually, just a nice stream in the background is all my Kundalini music. And really, that's what does it for me. And again, understanding that we have a choice. And sometimes when we get in those valleys, we feel victim. We exude victim, and we feel like we don't have a choice. And someone else has done this to me, or whatever it is. You get your power back by choosing to switch up your attitude. I also, Pat, I love watching inspirational videos. I'll go on, and it's so weird. I don't know why, but watching I'll go on YouTube and watch an amazing singer on the X Factor or one of those audition shows where they just, they're skeptical, and then they just blow you away, and you can watch them transform an entire audience with a gift.
Yeah,
that's how I think of our attitude. We have a gift to have our attitude be the key that unlocks someone else's joy. Yeah. And including your own. So that's a couple things that I do. I hope that answered it in a not too long-winded way.
No, fantastic. Yeah. Well, it is really important to have, our mindset kind of in check. And sometimes, like you said, we can kind of get into that sort of funk, and knowing what are some of those things. Of course, talking about the Miracle Morning, having kind of, the morning routine kind of sets you up for the day. It sets your day up for success. But even sometimes, something might happen through your day that throws us off a little bit. And it's good to know, what are some of those things that you can kind of do to catch yourself back a little bit and check. Like I know for me, I'll just throw on like some Jim Rohn, and it's pretty much impossible to listen to Jim Rohn for like 2 minutes and not be smiling afterwards.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
things like that you can even kind of do to kind of check yourself throughout the day if you ever need to is good to know.
Pat, just one more thing that I do too is, you hear it in all the books, just an attitude of gratitude, right? And in the morning, I really do. I'm not kidding. I get out of bed. I pull up my blinds, no matter what the day looks like here. I live in Bellevue now, and whether it's raining, which it does a lot, or sunny or cloudy, I literally say a prayer of gratitude of some kind, whatever you believe in, God, whoever, doesn't matter, the universe, it will provide and match that energy. And so before I wake up in the morning, before I go to bed at night, I make a list of all the things of that day that I'm grateful for. That's kind of like you can look at it as your visualization or your affirmations or whatever you want to write. I do it at night before I go to bed. So that's the last thing that's being programmed into my brain to marinate on. Sleep is a very interesting thing. People think that you sometimes you're just unconscious when you sleep. No, it's when all of your telomeres are connecting and all the thoughts that you have in your brain are going to turn into actualities the next day. And so the night before, I really want to be clear of what my intentions were for that day. What did I complete? What am I grateful for? What can I work on tomorrow? I make my list out, and then the next morning it's up and I'm grateful. And if you can start the day like that, it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't always stick, but man, you're at least getting a foot in the door to make it better, Yeah.
Well, that oftentimes when you wake up in the morning, if you are excited, going to bed the night before about something, and then every time the next morning you wake up and it's going to be the first thing that pops in your mind, it's going to totally impact how that next day starts, is how you end it the night before.
Absolutely.
So, jumping topics a little bit, I want to talk to you a little bit about, ask you some of the thoughts on kind of recruiting and some of the things along those lines as we're kind of building our teams in network marketing. What is it that you, when you're out there kind of just going about your life and going through the world, like what are some things that you're looking for in people that you would want to actually bring on board to your team?
That we just talked about it. Do they light up a room or do they turn the light off? I mean, that's it. I went, who did I see speak? It was at some convention. I forget what it was. And it was great, though, and I'm so sad that I can't give him credit because he goes, smile at someone. If they don't smile back, they failed the first test to join your team. I mean, that's as simple as it is. That attitude is so crucially important, and that really is the first thing that I look for. And Kenny Rossi, my dear friend and mentor, he always said, I'll take will over skill any day. And someone with a will to succeed and a passion and a drive to do what most people won't, oh, man, that's just like ideal. And then combine that with a good attitude and a company that already has a map for success and a team that's just welcoming you with open hands, going to help you succeed, it's game on. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and, one of the things that I think, this is maybe just a comment on my part, but and maybe if you have anything that you want to add to it, but from just having gotten to know you over the last few years, what I think is partially what makes you so successful as a recruiter is that you're kind of, and what I think is kind of cool about this business, it's like if you could just kind of let your personality out. Like, you're just out there having a good time. Like, you're this crazy, awesome person that it's fun and, like, outgoing. And you're just kind of out there going about your day, like, living your day, having fun, meeting people. Like, you just have that attractive personality. If you just kind of be that, like, everybody wants to, recruiting ends up not being an issue, I would imagine, because you just have, people want that. People, if you're, like, having fun, people, like, want to have fun. People want to you just kind of attract that to you, and it's not necessarily as much that you're, I would imagine that maybe you're not necessarily out there like recruiting so much, but
right.
you actually get good at actually attracting kind of people to you.
Well, first, thank you. I love being the positive, outgoing, crazy girl. But yeah, I think that's true. And I think when you come from a space of, and again, I think this is a learned skill. You're talking to someone now almost 10 years in the industry. Jordan 10 years ago in this industry was not the same person that she is now. So, I love looking at that kind of retrospectively and saying, year one, I still was positive, happy, but I had all those monkeys in my brain that weren't allowing me just to let things unfold. I was trying to control, figure out how did I sound like. It was very much from an ego space. And any time that you're not having fun or you're feeling uncomfortable, it's usually because you're coming from a space of your ego. When you're coming from a space of just authentically existing, and again, I'm not boasting as if I'm there all the time. I'm saying it as it's a daily practice. It truly does become inner confidence that you're giving someone something. And more importantly, you're reflecting a mirror for them to be their authentic self. And it's never a no. I think that's the biggest thing, Pat, that I've learned over the last year. And again, I'll attribute it to Kenny saying, girl, it's never a no. It's just a not right now. They just don't have enough information, and their timing window isn't open. And that really helped me just be and say, I know what I have is incredible. I know I can help someone succeed, but I'm not going to force or convince them to be a part of this incredible movement. They've got to want it for themselves.
Right.
And so I think for that reason, I'm able to make the conscious choice to just say, hey, this lifestyle is incredible. I can show you how to get it if you're willing to do what it takes. Yeah.
Well, I love that, and when I had kind of on that topic of recruiting, is I had asked you a little bit about like warm market versus cold market sponsoring. I like your answer. You said I don't really see the difference because your best friend was a stranger the day before you met, so which is exactly right. But so how would you say that you do most of your recruiting? Is it kind of just being out and about meeting people? Do you actually do any like leads, cold calling leads or anything like that? Or is it all kind of just out and about meeting people? Like what do you actually do to recruit?
Yeah, again, there's different phases in this business, and there's phase in the beginning where you are actively bringing people in, and then there's phases in this business where you're the person that your people are bringing people to, which is really where I'm at now. I have, it's actually both, because again, the word recruiting I think has, in my mind, got a negative connotation to it. I don't know if I'm projecting that or not, but for me, I signed up 3 people last month. I don't necessarily need to create that, but it's like you just go and meet people, or you see what I don't leverage social media as a way to build. I don't do cold calls. I really just exist and go out in the world living my life, and people need what we have. And when you can go to a space of listening someone into disclosure, I'll give my mom credit for that phrase, you listen people into disclosure and don't pounce with an answer to fix it, but offer an opportunity to take them through a process so they can decide if it's right for them. You could do this everywhere, every day, no matter what place you are in the business, whether you're first getting started or not. I literally met someone at the bank when I was transferring to a joint account with my husband, and she asked what I did. I explained very, very briefly, and she goes, I want that. I said, great. Well, right now we're at your place of business, and let's focus here. Let's get our monies transferred where they need to go, after which I'll set up a time and we can get together. And then it switches to, I'm just listening. I think that's the biggest thing in this industry that you hear all the time, but it sometimes takes a decade to sink in. So much of the time we get so excited about this opportunity that we just want to explode all the information. Information doesn't move people. Really, if you allow someone, I think I wrote it the other day, allow someone to tell their life story because they haven't probably said it or told anyone about it in the last 20, 30, 40 years. And if you can just give time to that and listen to people, they'd much rather hear themselves than you. And then it just becomes, what's the next step? So getting over the anxiety of the close and understanding that it's a process to take someone to the next step. And ultimately leveraging a team so that next step, if you're not confident, is someone now like myself that can say, oh, I got this. I understand. I'm listening to them. I'll handle the close with you until you get and we talk about earning while you're learning. That's the only way I am successful is I leveraged my team for the first 6 months. I didn't speak. I just connected them to others, and I learned and I absorbed, and then it became natural. It was like learning a new language,
Right. And so once you so you're leveraging, especially if somebody's new, like you said, they're leveraging the team. They're kind of making those connections. Once somebody actually is coming on board, I know you guys have kind of a step-by-step process, and I always like asking people because different people have kind of a different getting started process, but there's always core like fundamental pieces. That this person might have a 6-step thing, or this person has a 3-step thing, or whatever. But what are kind of your steps for when you have somebody brand new in the business and you're getting them started?
Yeah, the first step is they got to be on a convenience plan. I mean, that's the mover and shaker of this business. Creating that commitment to be on, or what some people call it, an auto ship, or whatever it is. As a business person, that's your first commitment. You're going to duplicate out what you do. And so first and foremost, make the commitment for yourself to be on that. Number 2, make a decision for where you want to go. I think that's a crucial part. Some people just get into this industry because sometimes it is so simple to be involved in that we treat it like a hobby. And we've all heard this phrase, treat it like a hobby, it'll cost you money. Treat it like a business, it'll make you money. And so that would be the first thing, is making a decision of what you're willing to give up to get what you want. And people sometimes don't like to hear that it takes a sacrifice. But I don't know, Pat. I don't know too many people that have created a 6-figure income or become millionaires without creating a sacrifice in some area in their life.
Sure. Yeah.
And so in this industry, it's no different. If that's a goal that you want, make a decision to commit to that. And then I think the next thing that we do is that's so important that I think people forget to do is make a list. Make a list of your people, warm market, cold market, whatever you want to call it. Actually write it down. It becomes a living, breathing list. I can't tell you how many times I've written a name down, and 2 days later they called me. Yeah. I hadn't thought of them in years. And it was like, holy crap, that's crazy. I just wrote your name because I want to talk to you about my new business. Yeah. And so that list is crucially important. And I think the next thing is plugging into everything your team has to offer. The biggest frustration I have for people is when they say, well, I don't feel like I've gotten enough training, or I don't feel like I know enough. Okay, well, are you plugging into this? No. Are you plugging into this? No. Okay, well, let's make sure we know all the things that we can plug into as we're moving through this ball down the field. And then step 1, committing yourself to plugging into it. Step 2, whatever steps you follow, having your people connect to that. But again, it starts with your decision, your commitment to plugging in, because that's what people are going to duplicate out.
Yeah. I love it. The other thing, I'm looking at my notes here about, I've got like all things highlighted and circled, all these questions that I want to answer you or ask you here. One of the things that I thought is a really important thing to talk about that is on the topic of objections. So we're kind of backing up a little bit before you're even getting somebody started. Oftentimes, is if people are running into different objections, if maybe a distributor or marketer is running into different objections, how do you help them to handle that? Because you had some good thoughts on this that I wanted people to hear.
Yeah, a lot of the objections that you hear are, time, money, industry, whatever it is. And for me, I really look at it as get your mind right. And typically what I found, and again, Jordan today is very different than Jordan 10 years ago or even 6 years ago when I joined the company I'm with. 26 years old, I had all the monkeys that you could possibly throw at someone. I'm too young. I don't have any money. None of my friends have money. None of my friends have time because they're all in their careers. Nobody my age understands this industry, nor do they accept it as a proper industry to be a part of. So any objection you could possibly have thrown out, those were swirling around in my brain. And the moment I realized that they were actually my objections and no one else's, oh my God, it was like the mirror shattered and a whole new world came to be. And so the first thing that I started doing was getting my mind right. I started reading books, and you asked for a list of books. Back then I was reading all the, Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Next $1 Trillion Industry, all of those books that talk about, the power of what we have a hold of. And I think that was crucial for me in just understanding. I have a learning disability with dyslexia, and reading was always a challenge for me, although I ended up being an English major and philosophy minor. Weird, but it worked out because they have books on tape, and now they have books that you can download. And so for me, they were always in my ear. I always had it on a playlist, those amazing books, and that really transformed my understanding of this industry and then gave me confidence to the point where that no longer was an objection because I didn't hold it as one. Secondly, the thing that I did to handle it's too expensive, I don't have time. Honestly, I'm not kidding when I said I didn't speak the first 6 months in this business. I played master connector. I listened to what someone wanted, and I connected them to the person that could share with them the information in the language that they needed to hear it. So leveraging my parents, Kenny Rossi, Al Kiernan, these are all amazing mentors that I have in my team. And they were able to answer and identify whatever that person was hearing in a way that I didn't understand. But as they started to explain, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. And then I was able to take those same wisdoms and share it with the people that were coming to me from my team. And it really became just this amazing cycle of learning and connecting and leveraging all the resources that we had for someone to make an informed decision. And again, handle the objection that you hear the most in your own mind. Get with someone that can explain it to you over and over so you alleviate that fear, that little drop in the bucket that you keep hearing and keeps resounding out, and those they get bigger and bigger as the drop gets, more and more in the bucket. And if you can stop the drop, the water becomes very still. So if you're dropping that in your mind every single day, the rings are going to get bigger and bigger. So you gotta stop that conversation you have in your mind with the objections that you're hearing.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I can recall the day that or not day, but I remember learning that out of high school I started selling Cutco cutlery, and I remember learning that when I was part of that company, that exactly what you're saying is that if you think it's too expensive, then you project. That's the objection you'll get from everybody. And it was a weird thing that you have to kind of work on that, and eventually you had to prove to yourself that it wasn't too expensive, or you had to prove to yourself that this is and then once you finally did prove to yourself, like really, actually, truly, you can't like just trick yourself. You really have to get over it yourself, like really. And then all of a sudden that objection just goes away. It's like magical thing, but there's something that we do in the tonality and our body language and whatever that we literally like just plant that objection in the other person's mind somehow.
Right.
It's really interesting.
And it's so funny. It's like that catch-22. The moment that you can handle the objection's no longer there to handle.
It goes away.
It's like, oh man, I finally know what to say.
Right.
No, it's really interesting. But again, if you're not at that place of confidence, the one piece of advice I have to just reiterate is link arms with someone that's a 10 in all areas. The product, if you're a product company, the company itself, the industry, the team, find someone that's a 10 in all those areas and bring all of your, quote, prospects or, anyone that you're, quote, recruiting, bring them to that person so you can listen to how they handle the objection. And you know what? What you'll find, it's not a formula. What you'll find is that it's very unique to each individual, so you can't script this. That's another thing that I love about this industry. As much as, you're going to get pearls of wisdom, you have to internalize it and have it come out through your mind, through your words. You can't just press play and have Jordan do it. You've got to figure out your own script that works for you so that it's authentic and powerful.
Yeah.
And that was something that took me a while to learn. Pat, I have to admit, being a woman in this industry, I was trying to act like all the guys. In basketball, that worked. If I just worked out with the guys and played with the guys, I got better. But here it was very different. And the first few years, although I was very successful, I didn't feel authentic in my own skin. And it was at that moment when I started transforming what they were saying into my own script and how I internalized it, that I feel I became powerful. And I became powerful for others, not for myself to feel powerful. I really want to differentiate that because I think in this industry you can have a lot of ego. And ego is not a bad thing. It's really not. But as long as it's to serve others and you can stay in that power from not a place of boastfulness, but a place of how can I help transform not only my life but someone else's life, then it's really, really cool.
Yeah. Now, you said a couple times now, the Jordan of 10 years ago is not the Jordan of today. So what are some of the what would you say are some of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome, or limiting beliefs that you've had to overcome, or anything like that, or just the biggest differences between 10 years ago and today?
Well, I think just anything. I mean, you look at it. I remember my mom saying, I was dating people in my 20s, and I thought they were the one, and she'd be like, Jordan, think about how much you grew from the age of 10 to 20. Yeah. And she says, you're going to grow 10 times more from the age of 20 to 30. And I always remember thinking like, oh, that's stupid. No, I'm not. I'm awesome. I'm so cool now. I never want to change. Thank God she was right. Now at 32, it's like, oh, I look back at that little girl and I love her, but, I just feel so bad with how, I don't want to say insecure because I never knew that I always thought I was being authentic. But I think a lot of it came from insecurity, and not in a I needed to. I don't know. I don't know how to explain that, but it really just was a transformation of living life. And in those years, I had a lot of life lived, a lot of people passed away, a lot of reality that just, wow, we're here for a significant amount of time, and that's it. And if we don't make it significant, it's just, God, the power in that alone transformed the way I view not only myself but the world and other people. I think that was another big thing for me is I didn't before look at people, and I said it, we're all connected and we're all one. That's really something I've learned in the last decade that I truly, truly believe. To be able just to go out in the world and love everyone. And that just sounds really, I love everyone. But I really mean it. I mean, I don't think I've met a person that I don't just adore if you really take the time to get to know someone. I think that was my biggest transformation is you can have judgments all you want, but the first stone you cast, hopefully it's not in your own house. And if you look at it as all one, when you cast a stone, that is in your house. And I think that was the biggest thing for me, just understanding that I really do have an opportunity to help transform the world. And it has to start with myself. And so a daily process, just all the things that we talk about started to shift in the last 5-6 years. And
is that was actually what I was going to ask you is next is, so we talked about some, kind of some of the miracle morning routines that you go through. Is that something? Can you point to when you actually started implementing that stuff? Have you always kind of had a moral? Okay, like when was that you actually started implementing?
Well, it was interesting. Playing basketball, I hated the morning. We would have early morning workouts, and it wasn't that I hated the morning. It was that I had to get up. That was the hardest part. Once I was up, let's go attack the world in a good way.
Yeah.
Let's go conquer. Let's go do what we have to do. It was great, but it was just so hard getting up at 5:30. And when I stopped playing basketball, I really just I was like, I'm stopping every habit that I ever created. So I stopped doing that for a very long time. And 10 a.m. was my best friend. That was when I greeted the morning. And still, I don't want to say I'm an early to rise, early to bed. I'm not. However, I found that when I consistently am up and doing my routine between 7:30 and 8 a.m., the week is just better. And really, Pat, I have to say that is only indicative of what I've done the night before. Yeah. And so for me, let's talk about it. When I'm not out having extra glasses of wine, when I'm not staying up till 11:30, 12 o'clock, my morning is very different. And I think that is, in the last decade, one of the biggest pivotal points is I stopped searching for life outside of myself. I stopped searching for, as terrible as it's going to sound, I stopped searching for a man in the club. I started really, I got into a deep, profound relationship over 3 years ago. Now he's my husband, and that transformed so much of my want and what I do. He is an early guy. He's out of the house up at 5:36 every morning, so he's got his miracle morning and makes me feel bad that I'm not up that early. Not that because I don't change it. But yeah, I distinctly remember, around the time that probably 4 years ago, that it was, okay, these are life choices that I'm making. And again, it really goes back to at a place where I understood, well, I shouldn't say understood, I was starting to understand my mortality. I was starting to understand the gifts that were given, the relationships that I had, the gratitude that I felt for being productive and being there for others. And if you're foggy and you're groggy and you're not whole, I mean, I shouldn't say whole because we're not whole. If we were whole and complete, we wouldn't be here anymore. But if you're not doing your best to figure that out, then we're really lost. And there's no greater fear in life than being lost, I don't think. And I think that's why some people come and are attracted to this industry, because it gives you that anchor. It gives you that ability to go back to dreaming and creating and fulfilling, and you don't feel extremely lost anymore. You have a goal. You have something to strive for. But that starts, again, with a choice. It's not the other way around. Oh, I'll do that when. It's like, no. Do that now, and that's how you create all of these other things. Right. And so much of this industry is that catch-22. So it's just it's so fitting that we talk about this, particularly when it comes to network marketing, relationship marketing. Right.
I love it. Well, one more question that I want to ask of you, and then anything that if there's anything that I have missed that you wanted to touch on, then we've got time for that as well. But the other thing that I wanted to ask you about is is kind of planning. Like, what do you do as far as, we've talked kind of about like daily routines and the night before, kind of going to bed with an idea of what you want the morning to look like, and getting your attitude, right before going to bed. But also, what about like goal setting? Do you like, are you pretty calendar oriented? Are you kind of organized from that standpoint? Are you planning tomorrow the night before, or do you kind of plan out your week, or how do you kind of organize yourself as far as that stuff goes?
Well, both, and I hope my parents listen to this because my mother will appreciate this part. I was not always the most organized child.
Yeah.
And throughout my life, my closet was a mess. Making my bed was just always it was World War III in our house to get me to clean up my room. And so I think that just kind of parlayed itself into my lifestyle into my 20s. And also, honestly, I got to say, when my parents were affording everything that I had, it was easy not to take ownership of it. And now in my 30s and even in the last decade, creating my space, my husband and my space, you take ownership. And I'm very humbled and grateful for everything that we have. So, for me, my morning also consists of straightening up and cleaning my house. I find meditation in that. I find meditation in doing laundry. It sets a rhythm for me. These aren't glamorous and glorious things, but I love it. I love a routine. I've always had a routine. I think with sports and athletics and all the things you do as a child that our parents had us in, there was always a rhythm and a schedule. And just coming from a sports philosophy, I'll go back to high school. We had the goal of winning state championship. Do we just focus on state championship and wait a year for that to happen? No. We have to win, tournaments. We have to win our division. We have to win.
Right.
So you just start breaking it back, and it all comes down to what? Your daily habits. What are we doing every day to practice and create the track to run on, so that when we get to that big event, when we get to that big finale, that big goal, we're prepared no matter what the outcome, because we've done everything that it takes. So bringing that back to what I do now, I have every year, my husband and I, on New Year's Day, we do a vision board for our year. We look at it, and we always have it out. That was something I learned, obviously, everyone must know it, The Secret.
Sure, yeah.
That was a pivotal one for me back in I was 21, and with the other company I was with, I remember my parents brought that home, and I watched it thinking, well, this is really cheesy. But what if it's true? But what if it's true? And so I started I don't want to just disregard it because I thought it was cheesy. I got to do it. So for the last decade, we've been, as family, and myself, now with my husband, we've been doing vision boards. And that's a great annual focus. And really keeping it somewhere you can see it. And then from there, I break it down. I definitely have a month goal that I look at. We have regional and quarterly events, so I set goals for those. We have our annual convention that I set goals for that of how many people I want to have there on my team. But if I don't break it down into a weekly and a daily focus, none of that matters.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest piece that we miss. A lot of this time in this industry, it's month-to-month oriented, because you're hitting a goal every month, and that's our focus, is we got to get there by midnight on the last day of the month.
Right.
But so many people forget that starts week one. I mean, that starts day one for the month. And so for me, every day I rewrite. I'm a writer, so I write out handwritten. I don't do it on the computer. I have all my technology, that's fine, but I handwrite my list every day.
Yeah.
Who I need to talk to, who I need to connect with.
Is it in a calendar, or is it in your pocket? Where do you actually write it out every day?
A couple things. I like to write, rewrite, and have it in 15 different areas. So I have just plain pieces of printer paper that I write on for that day that I can scribble on. For maybe like my weekly or things that I need to have, numbers that I need to put in, I have a journal that I keep everything there with. For, again, going back to daily versus weekly, for daily things, I have a huge calendar to my right on my desk that I write in appointments for that day. And then aside from that, I have in the computer a spreadsheet that I keep for my ultimate goal, which is a number of people that I want to have in my business to, on a convenience plan level, hit the top of my company.
Right.
So I have that. So when I get someone that's part of that, then I go and I put them in the master thing that's in my computer that's always there. So it's a lot of different things, but it works for me. I need to see it in 3 different places just because I'm so scatterbrained and dyslexic that I need constant reminders. And I like doing it on a blank piece of paper because I like doodling. And I have, you look at a piece, and I think I got that from my dad. His desk was always a mess, but he knew exactly where everything was. And there was always like 15 different ways that he was writing on a piece of paper, and it worked for him. He knew exactly where it was on what page, and I think that's something that I kind of subconsciously probably took in. But I think a daily and a weekly focus, if you choose 1 or 2 things out of all those, goal settings, to me in this industry, focus on day 1. What are we doing today? It's great to have a year goal, a rank goal, whatever you want, but if we're not talking today, what are we doing to get that done? None of that matters.
Right, yeah. Yeah, well, I think it's really, everybody has like different sort of systems and ways that they stay organized and everything, but I think it's really helpful for people to hear kind of, how you do it, how other people do it, because I think a lot of people don't. We know we should have one, but a lot of people don't necessarily have that figured out yet. So I think it's really helpful for people to hear how you kind of do that.
Well, and it'll evolve, because in the beginning, when I started, 6 years ago, I had everything on a whiteboard because it was my people that I was bringing in, and I was going for. So I had everything laid out, all the teams that I was doing on a whiteboard. Now, I have that whiteboard for the new people that I'm bringing in, but I've taught my team to have their own whiteboard, because now I'm at a place where they're calling me, filling in their whiteboard with all these people. So it definitely will evolve the more you do this, but do anything and everything until you find a rhythm, take it all in.
I love it. Well, is there before we kind of wrap up here, is there anything that I haven't asked you that you wanted to share on here that you thought would be really valuable for any of our listeners?
I think just the one thing that I want to reiterate possibly is who are you hanging out with?
Yeah,
are you hanging out with people that buy into your dream and believe in you and support you, or are you listening to people that have never succeeded at not only this or anything, and you're listening to what they're saying? And I think that for me was a big pivotal sacrifice that I made, is I stopped listening to the tape recorder in someone else's head, and I started creating my own version in my own. And if you can start doing that, we talk about the power of the morning. If you can start doing that on a daily basis, I really feel that you start attracting a different demographic into your life. What are you watching on TV? I'm not one that watches the news because I find that they just are stirring up drama, and I don't want that in my life. I'd rather listen to Wayne Dyer on public broadcast or something positive. And I think that's so crucial, and it bleeds into your attitude, your daily rhythm, your morning, your everything, your relationships. And being around people that are supporting that are believing in that. And it's, to me, one of the most important things.
It is really amazing. Like it's I guess it sounds simple. It's not necessarily easy to do, but it is a simple concept, and it just like what you said, really truly changing who you're hanging out with, and like what information you're kind of letting into your brain. And it really is amazing how that will just totally change your whole world around. But it's not necessarily easy to do, because we have these habits, we have these relationships, we have these things that we're in. So those can be hard to change. But but just doing that one thing can completely change your course, though. It's really, really great.
Absolutely. And I love it, Pat, that, when we met 4 or 5 years ago, it was for quote-unquote recruiting into one or someone's company. But we said, I remember, we were leaving my parents' house. You were walking out to you had a gray Jetta, right?
Yeah. Yes.
I remember it. You're walking out the path, and you're walking out to your car, and we just said, hey, whether it's today, tomorrow, one day we'll work together. And
totally. Yep.
I wholeheartedly believed it, and it's cool that I think that's the other thing. Stop projecting your timeline. For people that are listening, if it's real, if it's value, it will happen. And you just have to hold that belief and move forward as if. And I think that, Pat, that's why you're so successful. You and your beautiful wife, it's because you move forward as if it's already done. No matter what it looks like outside, no matter what anyone else is telling you, move forward as if. And let other people call you delusional.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Jordan, I am glad that we met that day, however many years ago it was, and that we've kept in contact, and just so glad that I just can't tell you how much I appreciate you being, again, part of this project and being part of the Miracle Morning for Network Marketers. And I think that just a lot of people are going to really benefit from everything that, you shared with us on here and also in the book as well. So thanks a lot.
Absolutely, Pat. It was my pleasure.
All right. Well, and thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one. And again, Jordan, thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Hey, this is Pat Petrini again, and just to wrap up really quickly, I just want to remind you that if you liked this interview, we've got a whole bunch more. If you go to our website, it's tmm4networkmarketers.com. That's TMM, like the Miracle Morning, FOR, networkmarketers.com. And, of course, if you haven't checked out the book yet, you can go to, first off, you get 2 free chapters of the book at tmm4networkmarketers.com. And then, of course, if you want to get the book, go to Amazon and just search for The Miracle Morning for networkmarketers.com, and you can get it paperback, Kindle, whatever. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you really enjoy the rest of the content that we've made available for you. Thanks a lot. Again, my name is Pat Petrini, and I'll see you on the next interview.